Hi, it's Alex Burns from the Cabinets Creek blog, and I wanted to make a brief video today describing the starting situation of the Seleucid Empire in Imperator Rome. Um, this is Paradox's new game, came out earlier last Thursday I want to say, and I've mainly been playing as the Seleucids, trying to sort of figure out roughly what a good starting strategy for them might be. There are already some great videos out there by people who really know the mechanics of the gameplay, like Radio Res, and I just wanted to kind of give you all perhaps a different look here at the start with the Seleucid Empire. As a sort of a historian who's focusing on the modern era, I'm not as familiar with the history of the ancient world, but I've sort of been fascinated by the Seleucids for a long period of time. They were an empire that lasted for a fairly significant amount of time during the sort of the dates of Imperator Rome. You have the sort of the founding, of the dynasty, hypothetically, during 312 BCE, and then its final collapse in I believe the 60s BCE. It was founded by one of Alexander the Great's former military commanders. Did not rise to high rank under Alexander, but really rose to high rank under Alexander's immediate successor, a guy named Perdiccas. And so the ruler of this kingdom, Seleucus Nicator, and so he's the initial leader, as you can see in the start here. It starts at 304 BC, or halfway through the conflict between the Seleucid Empire and the Mauryan Empire to the east. The Mauryan Empire, a very powerful state in the subcontinent of India, led by Chandragupta Maurya. And so anyway, just briefly here, I want to look at the Seleucid Empire at the beginning of the game as maybe some of the major threats and options you have. Obviously, the Mauryans are a powerful force to the east, and in most of the games I played sort of both as the Seleucids and as a couple states over in the Western Mediterranean. Usually find them near the top of the score chart in the game, so a very powerful state there. To the west, you also have some significant competitors, other Diadochi or other sort of successors of Alexander the Great. Most dangerous is Phrygia here. The Phrygian state, or as we might call it, the Antigonid state, is led by probably the most militarily proficient of Alexander's successors, a guy named Antigonus Monoophthalmus, or Antigonus the One-Eyed. He's fairly old at the beginning of the game, but under him, the Phrygian Empire is a fairly successful state up to this point, certainly with the power to kind of dominate the other sort of successor kingdoms around it. Also here to the west, you have Egypt under the rule of Ptolemy. Ptolemy having sort of again initially come to prominence under Alexander, came to further prominence under Alexander's immediate successor Perdiccas, and sort of stole Alexander the Great's body, brought it to Egypt, and set Egypt up as a kingdom of his own there. So maybe some of the background and strategic situation described. Let's go ahead and jump into sort of talking about the game itself. At the beginning, the Seleucid Kingdom, the Seleucid Empire, has a number of sort of dependent states, or what are they called? Just subjects, I guess. In Imperator Rome, you have Parthia as a subject kingdom. You have Bactria, sort of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom up here, as a subject kingdom. You also have, I think, Tylos, which is down here in the south, and then Adiabene here in sort of almost like the center or the heartland of the Seleucid Empire. So I'm playing on normal. I'm not playing on Iron Man because I'm really not that good at the game. So if you're looking for someone who's absolutely a master of Paradox games, you should probably check out Radio Res. He's really great at that kind of stuff. But I just figured I'd make this video to kind of share with you my experiences. So, starting the game here. The game begins with the event, the Eastern Satrapies. Basically, this is a reference to a historical scenario in which Seleucus sort of progressed down into India and met with Chandragupta Maurya, and they negotiated a peace settlement by which sort of the Mauryan Empire delivered a number of war elephants as tribute to Seleucus, and in exchange, Seleucus gave up a huge tract of territory. They also sort of sealed this deal with a marriage alliance in history. That's not something that the game replicates. So here are our options. We can either, as the Seleucid Kingdom, and I usually will call them the Seleucid Kingdom in this game just because the term Seleucid Empire is kind of a misnomer. All the coins and the sort of state paraphernalia issued by the Seleucids referred to themselves as the Seleucid Kingdom. Seleucus himself was a basileus, or a king, to use the ancient Greek term. And so, anyway, just a disclaimer there. So, if we negotiate with Chandragupta, he'll give us 5 units of war elephants, which will be put up into the second stratos, so the second army, which is up here somewhere, I promise. Yeah, right up here on the border with Media. The second stratos is already pretty big, so if you agree to this deal, these guys are definitely going to take attrition by sort of having the war elephants. The war elephants generate even more attrition than just normal troops, so there's greater supply weight, so you're going to lose men to attrition, even if you kind of begin moving troops out of this area before you unpause the game. On the other hand, we could negotiate, or excuse me, we could sort of say no, we don't want the war elephants, and instead continue a war with the Mauryan Empire. As I think I mentioned before, the game sort of puts you right into the story halfway through a war that was already going on. We would sort of keep, if we sort of say we don't want the war elephants, a fairly large portion of the empire, and it's kind of difficult to see, but basically a line across the country from this port down here all the way up to Parthia. Everything on the eastern side of that line, all of this territory over here, will be given to the Mauryan Empire if we make this deal. That is about 500 pops worth of sort of cities. Right now, our empire has about 3,700 pops, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be giving them a fairly sizable portion of our empire if we make this agreement. So I would say that's worth considering. But I'm gonna end up not going with this and sort of following in the footsteps of Radio Res. I'm going to decline to offer them a peace deal. I'm going to say, nah, I don't want the war of elephants. I want to hold on to this territory in the east. Now, let's go ahead and, with the game still paused, look at kind of the strategic situation and decide what we want to do. By and large, I think, and again, this is kind of maybe spoiling the game to some extent, but you're watching a Let's Play video, so maybe you don't care about that. There's going to be an event that makes it so we gain claims on all of Alexander's old empire, so all of these states to the west, like Phrygia and Egypt and Macedon, but we'll only gain them during the lifetime of our Misaelus, so during the lifetime of Seleucus. So while he is alive, we will continue to have all of these different claims, going to war with other successor states or other states, of the former Alexandrian Empire fairly easy. With that said, I'm going to disagree with Radio Res and say I don't think it would be really worth the time of the Empire to immediately ship a whole bunch of troops in order to fight a war to re-subjugate Bactria. Because in order to gain a peace deal with the Mauryan Empire, we're going to have to release Bactria to them. So this sort of strategy, I think, is maybe a very good one. I don't know, but because of these events that are coming up, I want to really focus my attention to the west, and so I'm going to start moving the armies of the Empire to the west in preparation for a confrontation with Antigonus Monophthalmus, Antigonus the One-Eyed. So, moving troops there. Gonna move another batch to Marda there, and then finally the third batch. I'm going to move to, I don't even know how to say that, Arsamia. So, with this in mind, in order to really sort of win against Phrygia or against the Antigonid kingdom, we would really have to find powerful allies. And one place we're going to look for allies is in Egypt. Ptolemy is friends currently with Seleucus. If you see here, they're sort of already friends in the game. And so what I'm going to do with that sort of bonus that we have diplomatically with them, I'm going to sort of capitalize on that. Just kind of going, so in terms of our kind of grand strategy for this game, again, if you're kind of following along here, I'm going to confront Phrygia. I'm going to try and become friends with Egypt. I'm going to hold on to these eastern satrapies by releasing my subject Bactria in a war with the Mauryan Empire, so sort of playing for time in the east in order to sort of decisively concentrate our resources in the west. So, our national overview, gotta take martial ethos, in my opinion. There are some good, other starting ideas for the military, particularly this reinforcement speed and army recovery morale speed, I think is helpful. But in order to fight Antigonus, we're going to want to have, and fight Phrygia, we're going to want to have a fairly high quality army. And so I'm going to go ahead and select martial ethos. I'm also, as far as oratory ideas, just going to take one more, and I'm going to take Hospitium, which is the sort of allows you to improve relations further. That'll be an important step when we come to making sort of alliance quickly with the Egyptians or with the Ptolemaic kingdom, and so I'm going to sort of select that there, and then finally. I think for the time being, I'm going to leave this idea blank because I want to spend some of my other oratory power, which is the resource that this requires, in order to do some other things. So looking at our national overview, obviously we have a lot of people who are Persian in the empire, and we're a tiny fraction. The Macedonian fraction of the Seleucid Empire is only about 5%. Likewise, a huge amount of people are Zoroastrian, in terms of their religious background. Hellenic, slightly higher, than the Macedonians, 5%. And then a large number of slaves and freemen, smaller numbers of citizens, and about the same amount of tribesmen as freemen, so not ideal there. Okay, looking at the government, something that I try to do because I run into trouble with this in previous games, is make friends with my successor in order to kind of avoid rebellions. In a couple of the games that I've found when I did not make friends with Antiochus, a rebellion broke out, a civil war broke out, in which he tried to supplant me. So I'm going to try and make friends with him again, sort of spending oratory and religious power. Military, can't afford any military traditions yet, and we do get up to 800. I'm a big fan of the Sarissa. I think having heavy infantry morale is fairly good. When it comes to technology, I'm going to select Proxenoi, because again, I want to try and be able to improve my relationship with Egypt. Herbalism, another great choice, though just doesn't really pay off with how much we have, with how slow our research spread is. Obviously, you can see we're only getting 23% efficiency for our research, and so as a result of that, I find taking Proxenoi and probably standardized measures I've found is fairly good as far as making a bit more what is it, treasury, a bit more gold maybe. I don't know what the term for currency is. And again, eventually perhaps we'll boost stability with the religious power up here, but for now, I don't believe it's worth it to take some sort of omen, because it just doesn't pay off in the long run. I mean, the buff is not great for the amount of power being spent. Our economy just kind of normal here. I'm gonna actually decrease the fleet maintenance, because our fleet's being over here, kind of in the eastern part of the empire on the Indian Ocean, in the Persian Gulf. Really not that helpful. So kind of decreasing that. What was that? Economy, diplomacy. I'm going to pursue an embassy with the Ptolemaic Kingdom. Just trying to improve relations with them. And what else here? Decisions. I don't think no decisions yet. Trade overview. Characters. So I've already made friends with my heir, I already started that event chain. So I'm not going to kind of do that on this screen. And then mercenaries. Yeah, we don't really need any mercenaries at the time being. Okay, let's look at our other events. Obviously, we've already seen we have a bad research ratio. We will try to improve our citizen count in order to boost that. Unused trade routes. Let's go ahead and handle that now. The trade route that I normally try to pursue. Anything? Oh, we lack. Okay. All right. So that would have been good to save. So that's a good power to do that. Yeah. All right. Military commanders. Yeah. So I've clearly made a mistake there, and I apologize for those of you watching that. I might actually spend a bit of money to do that, because I think I'm gonna want that. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go through and what do we need? Grain, I think, is what I want being imported to the capital. Let's take that first. Okay, so the you also have starving pops, and there's not a ton, at least in my other playthroughs. I've not done a ton about that, and probably should, but for the time being, I'm not going to address that. And then I have some scorned families, but such is life. All right. So with that addressed, there are some other sort of opening gambits you could pursue. For example, you could attack Atropatena, which is a fairly easy conquest. Then that kind of sets you up to attack Armenia. Again, though, I'm kind of pursuing a war against Antigonus the One-Eyed in order to sort of capitalize on these claims that we get for having Seleucus as one of the original successors of Alexander. So I'm pausing the game here. Alright, war, time to die. Let's go ahead and repause it. Going over here to the Mauryan Empire. They don't really like us, and we're going to try and change that. So I'm going to offer them a peace deal by which we release Bactria, and then go give them 60 gold, I believe, in order to maybe more than that. 70? Yeah, must be 70 gold. In order to end this war. Alright, and the war's over now. So we now have a truce. Still sort of hang on to our eastern provinces there. And so now we begin the process of actually moving troops out to the frontier. And I think that's probably it for this Let's Play video. I'll come back and maybe do another one of these in a couple weeks to see how these choices played out.